put it as well. But first of all, I need us to first understand, like I said, noxious liquid substance in bulk is part of the international regulation for marine pollution at sea, and it deals with prevention pollution for noxious liquid substances in bulk. And this applies to vessels that that carries noxious liquid substances, like I said, because of substances in bulk, and they must be certified. And what the certificates that they'll be going on through is what I'll bring Captain Banks to really talk about in the annex as well. But before it comes in, I'll just like us to, because one of the questions from the examiners is what are the categories of noxious liquid substances as well. First of all, we need to know that these noxious liquid substances are hazardous products. They're real hazardous products, and they can be very harmful if not well taken care of in any way. They are divided into 4 categories, which is the category X, category Y, category Z, and then we have other substances. The noxious liquid substances for the X are those ones that if they are discharged to the sea from tank cleaning or deballasting operation are deemed to present a major hazard to either marine resources, marine health, or whatever. In short, they are prohibited from being discharged into the marine environment. That's for the category X. Then coming down, we have the category Y, and the category Y is like substances that if they are discharged to the sea from tank cleaning or deballasting, might present hazard to the marine environment and the human health, or cause harm. And so, but in that case, there is a justified limit at which you must discharge Y. A limitation of the quality and quantity of the discharge into marine environment. Now, category Z is now coming lighter, which is noxious liquid substances discharged into the sea, of course, from tank cleaning or deballasting operation. They will pose minor hazard to either marine resources, human health, and so there's less stringent restriction. However, there will be advisories and regulations on how these products are to be discharged into the sea. There's less stringent restrictions on the quality and the quantity. When I mean less, I mean it's lesser than the category Y and the category X. So let's start it all again from the beginning. Category X, never. As long as it's fall under category X, that you are bringing something from tank cleaning or from deballasting operation, they pose major damage. So if they ask you what's category X substances under Annex 2, so these are liquid substances that if discharged into the marine environment, they pose major hazard. So they are hereby prohibited or being discharged into the sea. Prohibited, you are not to discharge it at all to the sea. Category Y, they present hazard. However, they are not prohibited, but there is a limitation to the quality and quantity of the discharge of this into marine environment. And remember, you need to also let us know that it's discharged from the sea. From where are you discharging it from? Either from tank cleaning or deballasting. Category Z, which is also noxious liquid substances. Now, these ones, they form lesser hazard, and we call this just minor hazard. So yeah, and you can discharge it into the sea, and we don't have much stringent restrictions to comply with in that as well. Now, there's what they call other substances. These are like ones who have been evaluated and found that they don't fall inside the category of X, Y, and Z as well, but because they're just considered to present no harm to marine environment. However, they are discharged from tank cleaning or deballasting operation. So majorly, Annex 2 really pushes us to see that there are hazards that will be coming in from tank cleaning or deballasting operations. So anything tank cleaning or deballasting operations must either fall on either category X, either category Y, either category Z, or other substances as well. And for the discharge criteria that we must be doing, ship must be proceeding at a speed of at least 7 knots and 4 knots in the case of if it's a non-propelled ship. So you mustn't stay in one place and then you just discharge everything. For discharge criteria of noxious liquid substances, at least the ship must be in motion, it must be moving, it must be underway, and it must be underway for 7 knots. And if it's a self-propelled barge, we must have at least a speed of 4 knots. Then the discharge must be made below the waterline. So discharge of all these noxious substances, it must always be, below the waterline. Also, you mustn't discharge anything on Annex 2 to less than 25 meter depth. I'll just push it down here. This thing talks about types of ship types as per the IMO. And like I said, these are ships that are really carrying all these dangerous chemicals in bulk. But why is it important? It's important because you might find yourself on all this kind of chemical tankers or all this kind of liquid substances that are very, very hazardous as well. But IMO, as you can see, IMO has put it into 3 types, which is type 1, type 2, type 3. And type 1 is chemical tanker, which is like for the transportation of products considered to present great overall hazard. Then type 2 is for to transport products with appreciably severe as a safety hazard. And type 3, these are chemical tankers who transport products with, of course, sufficiently severe environmental hazard. So they're broken down into 3. They're broken down into 3. But I've not really seen this come out of any exam as well. But it's just worth knowing that ships, according to the IBC and the Marpol Annex to the IMO, is broken it down into 3 as well. Now I'm just going to quickly move down to, like I said, the discharge criteria. And this is really broken down into several tanks. Several year that the ship was built. So ship built in 1986, the ship built in 2007, newly constructed ships, and ship built before as well. But major criteria of all these things, I'll put this note out there, but the major stuff we need to know about the Annex 2 before bombarding our head with so much stuff is just getting to know, their category. First of all, getting to know their category and getting to know the paperwork. So I'm not going to take much time here. I'm going to pass it over to Banks to give us on paperwork and certification under Marpol Annex 2. Devansh.
Okay, good day, boss. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Do I need to put on my video or no need?
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, okay, I will say under Marpol Annex 2, which is for noxious liquid, the certification, we have different certifications. For the chemical tanker, we have certificate for the carriage of noxious liquid. While for offshore vessels, we have what we call certificate of fitness for the carriage of noxious liquid. So what does the certificate entails? The certificate entails, it gives you, there'll be a list in the certificate which states the type of noxious liquid your vessel is certified to load. Sometimes, so that's why as a chief officer or a master, when the client gives you some cargo to load, you have to check your certificates that, okay, am I certified or my ship build is it certified to load this kind of cargo. So the list of noxious liquids to be loaded. Let me now go to offshore vessels, because most of us are in offshore vessels. So in the certificate of fitness, you have those lists of noxious liquid you are certified to load. So that is as per the certificate. And the validity of the certificate is 5 years. Subjected to, I think it's intermediate, right? Am I right? Intermediate, which is, I think is second, must be done between the second 3 months before and after second or third anniversary date. So that's as per the certificate. So also the ship must have what we call P&A manual, which is procedure and arrangement manual. And what does the procedure and arrangement manual entails? You know, it's a booklet approved by, I think, administration or by the ROs. It gives you the diagram, the piping system, the pump capacity, you know, the tank cleaning procedures, stripping procedures, balancing, and all those procedures stated in that procedure and amendment manual. So it guides with the shipboard officers on how to carry out all those jobs. Also, the ship must have what we call the SEMPEP, Shipboard Marine Emergency Plan, right? So the ship must have a SEMPEP. And also, the ship must have what we call the cargo record book. So the cargo record book, most ships is being maintained by the shipmates, which when you carry out any operation regarding to noxious liquid, loading, discharging, tank cleaning, it must be recorded because there are codes. It's stated at the front end. Also, it gives you the diagram of the tanks, the designated tanks for all those noxious liquid on board your vessel. So when you carry out any noxious liquid, either you discharging, loading, you have to record it down, the quantity, the tank ID, the ROB you have in your tank. It will now ask you again if the tank is dry. They will now ask you, did you follow the procedure according to the P&A manual? All those are, you have to record it in the cargo record book. Why? Is because all these things are subjected to inspection. So you know that anytime maybe you have a postage control or flag state or inspection regarding to the certificate, these are all they are going to check. So to ensure you comply with the Marpol Annex 2. So I think that's what I can say for now regarding Marpol Annex 2. As the classes go on, I will remember other things.
Yeah,
Captain Busayo.
Yeah, thank you very, very much. That makes sense. Majorly, like I said, the certification, like the branch has mentioned now, and more so the category of noxious liquid substances as well. P&A, procedure and arrangements manual, those are documentation and certification that we will need under the Marpol Annex 2 as well. Is anybody clear? Is anybody having any questions there? Yeah, with that, I'll just move down so we can get these 2 and 3 finished today as well. Marpol Annex 3, like I said in the last class, is not something I will dwell much on because the next lecture will be on IMDG, which talks more about this Marpol Annex 3 as well. But in a nutshell, what it just really contains, the Marpol Annex 3 here, is the prevention of pollution by harmful substances carried by sea in package form. And this applies especially to to us on supply vessels, to us on container vessels, and of course to every other persons as well. And what does it contain? It just contains majorly general requirements for issuing of detailed, standard on the packing, marking, labeling, segregation, where to store them, what are the conditions as well. And the only reason why this is being, the prevention of this pollution is really important is because these are really harmful substances, and if they find themselves in the marine environment uncontrolled, it can really cause a lot of catastrophe. Which, like I said in the last class, this is where Marpol came together and they're trying to prevent as well. So we're gonna leave the IMDG to the next series of class, which will be the IMDG code. Or now we can really be able to identify these dangerous goods with their UN number, and that's kind of a complex one because it's an interesting one that when it comes out in oral class, but majorly like I said, it's more about marine pollutants, it's more about the packaging, it's more about the segregation, and of course the certification that will be involved in part 3 as well. Interestingly, now we're just gonna move down to Annex 4. And Annex 4 is, of course, one of the most important parts of the Annex because everybody on board must either, as long as you spend 1 or 2 days on board, you have to go use this system, which is the sewage system. And now the Annex 4, Marpol Annex 4 is coming into play here. And it's saying, how can we prevent the pollution by sewage from ship into the marine environment as well? And that's when Annex 4 came into play. So this sewage means, any waste from in any form, from toilets and urinals as well. And even to go further, your vessel as well must have international sewage pollution prevention certificates. International sewage, as long as complying with your Marpol. So if for the vessel that to have the international sewage pollution prevention certificate are vessels of 400 gross tonnage and above. If your vessel is 400 gross tonnage and above, then you must have you must have an international sewage pollution prevention certificate. Also, if let's say your vessel is less than 400 gross tonnage, but it's carrying more than 15 passengers. Your vessel is less than 400 gross tonnage, it's carrying more than 15 passengers, you are required to comply with these regulations as well. What does it talk about? We can see it here. It says it helps in the containment requirements to control pollutions of the sea by sewage. How do we discharge the sewage? And some places discharging into the sewage is prohibited. Last class also I talked about special areas, and we'll look at special areas in Marpol Annex 4. And sometimes except the ship has the approved sewage treatment plan. Moving on to 2, what's this approved sewage treatment plan? How is it that we're going to be able to discharge the sea? Sorry, I need to come back again to the certification. Certification under the Marpol Annex 4, I mentioned is the International Sewage Pollution Prevention Certificate. And also, we need to know that it's up for an initial survey. So before the certificate is even issued in the first place, they'll carry out an initial survey. And then secondly is up for a renewal survey. And of course, we call it an additional survey as well. So another question I've seen here is what kind of surveys will be carried out on your International Sewage Pollution Prevention Certificate? So we have the initial, we have the renewal, and we have the additional as well. Equipment under Annex 4. Because now This Annex 4, how do we control? Is it that we're going to be able to reduce the quality or reduce the quantity, or what needs to be done? The sewage regulation is asking us, it has to go through a sewage treatment plan. So we need to have one, a sewage treatment plan on board. We need to have two, a sewage committing and disinfecting system. And three, we need to have a holding tank system. So yeah, so that's three. The sewage treatment plan, the sewage committing and disinfecting system, and a holding tank system. And this is what makes you comply with the Annex Marpol 4. Last but not the least, on Annex Marpol 4, there are conditions, and I think there are 4 major conditions on this Marpol Annex 4, which is one, on the way that you will treat your sewage, which is one, it must not be discharged into sea not less than 3 nautical miles from the nearest land. So in any case at all, sewage is prohibited for being discharged into the sea for less than 3 nautical miles. Even if you are using a sewage disinfecting system or a community system, you are not to discharge it less than 3 nautical miles. Now, second condition, you mustn't discharge sewage into the sea of less than 12 nautical miles if you are not using a sewage committing or disinfecting system at all. So let's come back again to the first one, because the question over here is, how can you control the discharge of sewage into the sea? And first thing first, you need to first let them know is at what distance is it that you can discharge sewage into the sea. First of all, we need to use, of course, the sewage committing or disinfecting system, which is good. But even with that system, when it gets to 3 nautical miles to the nearest land, you shouldn't, in any case, discharge the sewage into the sea. 2, if you are not using this system, you should not discharge into the sea when you are less than 12 nautical miles. When you are 12 nautical miles or less than 12 nautical miles to the nearest land. Then 3, I talked about an holding tank, that's a sewage holding tank, which is good. So let's say you are in 3 nautical miles, and there are 3 nautical miles, or you're in 12 nautical miles and above, and you're not having a disinfecting system. You can use your sewage holding tanks. But these sewage holding tanks, that's where it comes to the third condition. You must not discharge it at once. You must not be discharged instantaneously at once. It must be discharged at least at a moderate rate when the ship is en route and steaming, and the ship must be steaming at least 4 knots. So those are the 4 conditions for you to comply, and I'll come again with this condition. First thing first, never discharge sewage close to the nearest land, 3 nautical miles close to the nearest land. Second condition, never discharge sewage close to the nearest land, 12 nautical miles close to the nearest land if you are not using a sewage committing or disinfecting system. Third condition, for any reason you are storing your sewage in a sewage holding tank, it must not be discharged all at once. They must not be discharged instantaneously. The ship must be en route, which is the fourth condition. And the ship must be en route, and it must be en route for at least 4 knots of speed. So these are the ways that we have to comply with the Marpol Annex 4. These are the way we comply with Marpol Annex 4. Special areas under Marpol Annex 4 is just the Baltic Sea. So we had the Marpol Annex 1, and we talked about the several sea, the Black Sea, the Red Sea, North Sea, and so on, Gulf of Oman. But this one here, we just have only the Baltic Sea as well. And can I ask, who was here last week? What do I mean by special area? MA. Mike Alpha. Anyone, if you can help me, what's special area? We have several people in the class, but yeah, I'll just move on to say special areas are areas as defined last week are areas that due to their technical, I use the word technical, but due to their of course technical location, they face more stringent regulations. So what you can do in outside special areas, what you can do in all other places, when it comes down to, especially like Arnold's Map 1, when you come down to to the Black Sea or to the Red Sea, you have to comply with more stringent rules and regulations that they have put in place as well. Like other places in the Marpol Annex 1, the Gulf of Aden, I know those guys, they really look forward to their own regulations as well. But under the Marpol Annex 4, like I said, it's just the Baltic Sea that we have for the special areas. So with that, I think we'll move down to the Marpol Annex 5. I was supposed to leave that till next week, but since there's still time, we could just get that also out of the way as well. So the Marpol Annex 5, it's one of the most popular annex in the Marpol Convention, which is the prevention of pollution by garbage. And everybody deals with garbage. But where does this garbage end up? This garbage ends up in the shoreline, this garbage ends up polluting even the marine environment as well. So that's when the Marpol came about, and especially in 1988, and brought in the Annex 5 for proper control and prevention of pollution by garbage into the sea. And the garbage, from the definition we can see here, garbage means like all kind of, domestic operational waste, including even things like even fresh fish that we think that are supposed to be in the water as well. So certification, and the reason why I keep going certification is because, of course, it still come out in your exams, but majorly we all need to know which certification complies with, which certification goes with which of the regulations as well. But for the Marpol Annex 5, luckily there is no certification. So like there is a certification for the Marpol Annex 1, and we talked about certification for Marpol Annex 2. When we're dealing with the IMPG and all stuff, I'll speak about certification that goes in line with the Annex 3. The Annex 4, we have the International Sewage Pollution Prevention Certificate. Marpol Annex 5, there is nothing for the garbage. But however, we have to comply. And the interesting part of garbage, the Marpol Annex 5 is it applies to all ships, every single ship. So for Marpol Annex 1, Marpol Annex 2, and others that we've discussed about, we are talking about 400 gross tonnage and above, like Marpol Annex 4, 400 gross tonnage and above, or even below 400 gross tonnage, as long as it's carrying more than 15 passengers, it must comply. But Marpol Annex 5, every single ship is involved. But this applies to like all ships, and everyone must also carry out, even though we're not carrying out a certificate, we must carry what they call like a garbage management plan. So every ship must comply with this. But also now, if you are now like 400 gross tonnage, or you're carrying 15 passengers, they will be asked now to start carrying some paperwork, which will be like the garbage management plan. The garbage management plan, and then we have also the garbage record book. garbage record book, and these are especially for ships that are above 12 meters or more. They are also to display the placards, and I think that's one of the things, the MCA themselves, they really come in pushing for that. These placards are placards like what you can discharge when you're so nautical mile to the nearest land, what you can't discharge. For instance, the plastic, the dunnage, the general garbage, your food waste, and even discharge that are totally prohibited from even from anywhere as well. Special areas under the Marpol Annex, Annex 5. Inside the special areas, all garbage are prohibited. So all garbage are prohibited inside the special areas of the Annex 5, except if, and only for food waste. Food waste must be commuted and discharged in at sea greater than 12 nautical miles. I'll check this slide whether I have, yeah, this is what I'm looking for as well. But first of all, I need us to know the special areas under the Marpol Annex 5. They're quite similar to the Marpol Annex 1, but Marpol Annex 1 have more special areas. Special areas under Marpol Annex 5 is 1, the North Sea, 2, the Baltic Sea, the Black Sea, the Gulf area, Red Sea, the Mediterranean Sea, and of course the wider Caribbean region. So when we're passing through this, there are special rules, like I said, that we must comply. But generally, this is our requirement for disposal at sea. So we can see it from this graph here. For plastics, including ropes, nets, bags, outside the special area is prohibited. Inside the special area is also prohibited. The floating dunnage, packing materials, outside special areas, as long as you are more than 25 nautical miles offshore, you're fine. But inside the special areas, it's prohibited. So we could see the difference, like I showed you in Annex 1. So you can see the difference between outside and inside special areas. For products like rag, metals, bottle, down paper products, outside the special areas, you must be more than 3 miles offshore, and inside special areas is totally prohibited. Cargo residues, paper products, rag, metals, and some other stuff. You can do what you want to do, but make sure it's for the outside. You can do what you want to do, but make sure you are more than 12 nautical miles offshore. And of course, in special areas, it's totally prohibited. The only thing even allowed in special areas is food. But even for the food, it must be grounded and communicated, which must now be more than 12 miles offshore, outside and inside special areas as well. Then incinerator ashes outside special areas, we have it should be more than 12 nautical miles offshore, and inside special areas, disposal is prohibited. So we could see what these special areas also mean, which is there are more rules there are more stringent rules that they apply even than the outside special area. This is also kind of a requirement that we must comply. We must follow as well. I really had a graph that I really wanted to show us on, which is different from this. A play card on what to discharge and what not to discharge. And using the color code, we will have been able to differentiate what is done and what is not, what can be done and what cannot be done inside it. Garbage management plan. This also came out. This is also one of the questions, but this is also something that, please, I would really like us to really know as well. I would like you to go on your ship and check what's this garbage management plan. I was given the task to write a full garbage management plan, and yeah, this wasn't funny, but writing it, I begin to really understand that, yeah, there's so many things involved in just, collecting garbage and keeping them somewhere. But your ship, as long as it's 400 gross tonnage and above, and is a ship, you're carrying 15 passengers or more, you must have that garbage management plan and the garbage record book. So what does this garbage management plan entail? It's going to entail things like designated person for carrying out the garbage plan. So it might be any officer on board, or it might even be the chief cook, or on Roro vessels, ferries, or on the cruise, it might be a chief steward as well. Procedures for collecting garbage. That's the second one that you'll find inside the garbage management plan. Procedure for processing your garbage. Procedure for storing the garbage, and procedure for disposing the garbage. So I kind of put it that way. First of all, procedures also for collecting the garbage, processing it, storing it, and then finally disposing it. That's what the garbage management plan, that's what it entails as well. Looking at the slide here, it must be written in working language of the crew, and it must be regularly reviewed. But that's fine. But as long as we have the first line where it's written procedures for collecting, storing, and processing, and then the disposing, and then the designated person, that's the major bulk of what the garbage management plan is for. The second important one also is the garbage record book. And the garbage record book, just like we have it in the garbage management plan, but this is now entailing what exactly you're doing with your garbage. But first of all, the designated person for carrying out the plan is also there in the garbage record book. Then every discharge operation at sea, every discharge operation in the port must be written in the garbage record book. Every discharge incinerated, that's your garbage that has been burnt. Also, just like the oil record book that I was speaking last week, we also have accidental discharge where for some reason you have oil flowing into the water. So here also you can have accidental discharge. You are not to hide it, but also you have to input it into the garbage record book. And more importantly, the position at which you treat this garbage or whatever you've done with this garbage must be entered, the date and time, the type and quantity, and of course, for every single end of the page, something the surveyor will come in to come and check, is it signed by the master? Is it properly filled? And is it signed also by the master as well? So I think with that, it kind of ends the garbage. The main bulk of the garbage annex. The garbage pollution prevention and the annex 5. So I will stop here now, and next week will be mining prevention, pollution prevention for garbage. For annex 6, which will be for pollution prevention by air, and that's a bulky one. But we're going to be having someone coming in to come and lecture us on that one as well. Yeah, I hope I've not just been speaking. Does anybody have any questions to ask? Okay, I think that should be fine. We should just really remember all these, and I'm going to post this whole notes and some other notes that I made down there into the class. But most importantly, we need to know what certification applies to which of the annex 1. Then we need to know the procedures. We need to know the special areas applying to which of the annex, like I said, and more importantly, every single of these rules are very, very important for us to follow. And the more we follow it, the more we also keep, the marine environment safe. Captain Banks, you have anything to add? I'm seeing the bishop there as well, in case you have anything to add. All right. Thank you very.
Harmful to marine environment and was now added to the garbage harnesses. That's the cargo residues. So which we must also take note.
Sorry, come again. We didn't catch that, sir.
I mean, the cargo residues, the harmful to marine environment and the non-harmful to marine environment was also added to the garbage categories in Marpol Annex 5.
Okay. Oh, thanks. That's noted. I'm going to also note that down. I'll note that down. So yeah. Thank you. Another thing I think I also forgot to mention was the garbage record book must be stored for a minimum of 2 years. Must be stored for a minimum of for about 2 years as well, so that it can be readily available for inspection. So, all right, thank you very much, and thanks to everyone in the class. I think we've not much today. I think there might be an exam or something going on, but however, everybody can catch it up on YouTube. And see you next week. It will be Marpol Annex 6, and then thereafter we'll do the orals Q&A on this as well.
Thank you, boss.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Bishop. My bishop.
Agreed to.
Eto asalo.
We'll talk after the service.
Yes, sir. In the other room.